I'm Sneha. I'm currently a third year MBBS student at AIIMS Nagpur, and today we'll be doing part two of previous year questions for the chapter Human Reproduction. So we'll be starting with question 21. We have completed the previous 20 questions in the part one of this particular segment. So, question number 21, we have that the growth of corpus luteum is initiated by which hormone? Corpus luteum, you should know it is a sort of endocrine gland and it is formed after ovulation. So, it is corpus luteum, it is formed after ovulation. So, we need to know that what is the hormone that is causing ovulation. So, we right here, we have a graph of menstrual cycle. So, ovulation takes place on the 14th day. So, ovulation, it takes place on the 14th day and it is due to the hormone that is known as LH. And there is an event occurring which is known as LH surge. There is a sudden increase, that is peak of the level of the hormone LH, which causes ovulation. So ovulation takes place due to what? It takes place due to LH surge and corpus luteum, which is yellow colored. This is a characteristic feature. So corpus luteum, which is a yellow colored structure, it is formed after ovulation, and ovulation occurs due to LH surge. So the growth of corpus luteum, it is initiated by which hormone? It is initiated by luteinizing hormone, which is option C. So next we have in a 28-day ovarian cycle, which is right here. This is the ovarian cycle or the menstrual cycle. Ovulation, it occurs on day 14 and it is always on day 14. Mostly in a 28-day cycle, if we consider, it occurs on day 14 and it occurs due to which hormone? Due to LH surge. So, question number 22. We have total cycle is of how many days? It is of 28 days. And on the 14th day, we have an event known as LH surge, which causes ovulation. Okay. So right here we have option C, which is the correct one. Moving on to the next one, we have fertilizers are emitted by. So there are two particular substances. We have question number 23. There are and then we have anti-fertilizers. So fertilizers by structure, they are glycoproteins. Glycoproteins means they have carbohydrate along with proteinaceous part. Fertilizers are glycoprotein and they are secreted by mature eggs. What do we mean by mature eggs? Mature egg, we can call it as ovum. So the ovum, it secretes fertilizer. Why is this particular substance secreted by ovum? Everything has a significance. So we need to know that ovum, it is secreting what fertilizers. So its significance. So the significance for the secretion of this particular substance is that the head of sperm, it secretes anti-fertilizing. So when these two hormones are secreted, that is fertilizing and anti-fertilizing, they will combine together and they will help in recognition. Okay. So important. So fertilizing, it contains of monosaccharides and amino acid that I just told you. It is secreted by a mature egg. Penetrating sperm also has the same proteinaceous substance on its surface, which is called as anti-fertilizing. So this fertilizing, It interacts with anti-fertilizing, and due to interaction, there is an adherence. Adherence of what? Adherence of the sperm to ovum. And this fertilizing and anti-fertilizing, it is specific to a species. So in this way, the egg or the ovum actually knows that the sperm that is coming is actually from species. Okay, so the same species we have, same species, both the ovum as well as the sperm, they are from the same species. And anti-fertilizing, we told that it is present over the surface of an sperm, but we need to know that from where, which particular part is this actually secreted. So anti-fertilizing, it is an acid secreted by the acrosome. So the head, it contains acrosome. This is a very bad image, but all right. So the head, it contains acrosome, and acrosome, it contains anti-fertilizing. And due to it, there will be sticking of sperm to the ovum. All right. Next question, we have the estrus cycle. Question number 24. Estrus cycle. What is estrus cycle? We know that there is a cyclical change in our ovaries, a cyclical change in our uterus. So, cyclical change in the lining of uterus. Hormonal levels and ovulation. This particular mechanism is known as estrus cycle. So, what do we actually mean? That we know in humans, there is a phase in which ovulation takes place. That is the day 14th. We have this diagram right here. Ovulation, it takes place on day 14th. And it is not that at any particular period of time, if there is an intercourse between male and female, fertilization will take place. There is a particular period. This particular period in animals, it is known as heat period. In other animals or mammals, we have a heat period, like in cows. There is a particular period during which ovulation is. And during this particular period, that is ovulation, only during this particular period, fertilization would occur. Okay. So if we consider this as the complete month timeline, so we have this complete month. So only during this particular period, that is the day 14th, not exactly day 14th, we count 3 days before the ovulation and 4 days after the ovulation. So there is this particular period, which is known as the fertile period. This period is known as the fertile period. And during this, there are high chances, very high chances of fertilization to occur. Okay. So we need to make sure what we know that what is estrous cycle. So estrous cycle, in what all organism does it occur? So estrous cycle, it is due to what? It is right in the name. It is due to estrogen. Estrogen causes the estrous cycle, and it is a characteristic of mammalian females other than the primates. So it occurs in mammals, but not all mammals, but not in which primates. Okay. So estrous cycle. So estrus, the term that is given is actually the period during which ovulation occurs, and the female, they have a mating process occurring with the males. Okay. So we have extrusion of the second polar body from egg nucleus. Question number 25. We have extrusion of polar body. So we know that meiosis actually consists of two phases, which is meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. So these are the two phases of meiosis. So meiosis 1, we have prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and we'll add 1 in front of them because it is a part of meiosis 1. Meiosis 2, we have prophase, metaphase, we have anaphase, and we have telophase. And this is what? 2. So after meiosis 1, we have primary oocyte. It forms ovum plus first polar body. And this is after meiosis 1. So meiosis 1 actually forms in the actually results in formation of ovum that is released via ovary. And where is it released? It is released by the ovary in the fallopian tube. Okay. So ovum is released, but we need to look carefully. Meiosis 1 has already occurred in this particular like structure. Ovum has completed meiosis 1, but it gets stuck. Where is it? In prophase of meiosis 2. So ovum, it has to undergo meiosis 2 to form the final structure, and there is a release of second polar body. Now, when does this meiosis 2 takes place? It takes place after entry of sperm. So this right here is an ovum. Okay. In an ovum, we have this is the nucleus. So this is the nucleus of ovum. And this is the outermost layer. What is the name of outermost layer in a zona pellucida? So zona pellucida is the outermost layer. So as we have a sperm entering the zona pellucida, there is a signal sent to the nucleus to complete meiosis 2. And after meiosis 2 is completed, fertilization will take place. So meiosis 2, it is completed between two processes, that is entry of sperm. After or before the entry? It is after the entry of sperm, and it is before the process of fertilization. So in case fertilization occurs, we'll be having syngamy and then other processes. But in case fertilization doesn't occur, or there is no entry of sperm. So if there is no entry of sperm, this ovum, it should have undergone meiosis 2, but this doesn't take place. Instead, the ovum, it gets converted to Graafian follicle. Ovum actually, graphene follicle has already formed when there is a release of ovum. So the ovum, it uh, undergoes degeneration and is expelled out of the body during menstruation. Okay, so this is what happens. So in case there is no fertilization, meiosis 2 will not get completed. Meiosis 2 is not completed. So this is what we have as the entire process taking place. So I hope you're clear with the answer now. When is the second polar body released? When there is meiosis 2 taking place. And when is meiosis 2 taking place? It is taking place after the entry of sperm and before the completion of fertilization. Okay. So this is option A, which is that the entry of sperm, it stimulates the secondary oocyte to resume and complete the suspended meiosis 2. And this produces a haploid mature ovum and polar body. And the second polar body and sperm tail, they immediately degenerate. Now, we just understood in this question that question number 26th, we have that freshly released egg. Freshly released egg is what? After it has undergone meiosis 2. So after undergoing meiosis 2, we have the freshly released egg. So we know that meiosis is what? Meiosis is reductional division. So normal adult female, the cells have what composition? They have 44 plus XX. This is in the case of female, and males, what is the composition? It is 44 plus XY. Now, in case there is going to be meiosis of this XX, there will be 23 plus X and 22 plus X. Sorry, you'll be having 22 plus X and 22 plus X. After meiosis, there will be four gametes that would be formed: 22 plus X, 22 plus X. But we know that in case of human females, we have first and second polar body. And they degenerate. So single ovum is released. And what is the genetic composition? Genetic composition for this ovum that is released is 22 plus X. And it will then form with the sperm which has 22 plus X or Y. This is the sperm. And they both will then fuse to form 44 plus either XX or XY in normal cases. So, what is the genetic composition of the ovum? It consists of one X chromosome. So, the freshly released egg, it consists of one X chromosome. Okay. The sperm and the egg nuclei, they fuse due to question number 27. We have this sperm nuclei and we have this egg nuclei. There will be a fusion. What is the reason for this fusion? I told you that egg nuclei, it releases fertilizer, and the sperm nuclei, it releases anti-fertilizer. So there's a fusion of fertilizer and anti-fertilizer. There would be fertilization. Now, due to the presence of these two substances, what are these substances? These are glycoproteins. What are the components of glycoprotein? It contains protein. What is protein made up of? It is made up of amino acids. Additionally, we have monosaccharides. So these fertilizer and anti-fertilizer, they attract each other. What do they do? They attract each other. Due to which our fertilization takes place. So why is the fusion occurring? It is because of attraction of the protoplast. Attraction of protoplasts. It allows the egg and sperm nuclei to fuse. Okay. So sperm or the male gamete, it fuses with egg, which is the female gamete, because of attraction of protoplasts. Now, some chemicals they are secreted by ovum. What are these chemicals? These are fertilizers, and they attract the male gamete or sperm, which contains anti-fertilizer, and they both attract each other. So, human eggs are what type of eggs? We have question number 28. We have to classify human eggs. So, firstly, we need to know all of these terms. We have a lecithin, we have microlecithin, then we have mesolecithin, and then we have macrolecithin. Okay, how are these classified? So, eggs can be classified in four types. So, we have eggs, and we have classified into four types. Now, what is the basis for this classification? It is on the basis of amount of yolk. So, on the basis of amount of yolk, we have four classifications of eggs, which is either first is alecithin, then we have microlecithin, then we have mesolecithin, and then we have macrolecithin. Now, do you actually know what is yolk? So, you have eggs, the eggs that we consume on daily basis. So, egg, it consists of a central yellow part. So, this central yellow part is what is yolk. And yolk is of nutritive benefit. Okay, so I'll write it down here. Yolk, why is it produced? It has nutritive value. Nutritive value, and it supports the embryo. Okay. So, provides nutrition. Now, firstly, we had what? We had A lecithin. So, A, it is clear from the name itself that there is almost almost yolk, absent or very little. Or we can classify it as absent only. So, yolk is absent. That is 0% yolk is present. And it is seen in what? It is seen in mammals like man. Mammals such as man. What is the name, scientific name for man? That is Homo sapiens. Okay, and we'll just underline that. Then we have microlecithin. In the name itself, micro, that is very little yolk. Very little yolk is present, and this is seen in what? Branchiostoma. So branchiostomas, they have very little yolk. Then we have mesolecithin. Maximum is in the macrolecithin. Very large amount of yolk. That is macroscopically visible. Large amount of yolk is present in macrolecithin. It is in the name itself. So large amount of yolk. Example is reptiles. Then we have birds, and then we have egg-laying mammals. Okay. What are the things of macrolecithins? We have reptiles. Then we have birds, and then we have egg-laying mammals. And what is the example of egg-laying mammals? We have a scientific name, that is monotremata. We have monotremata. We have first example is platypus. So it is given in the animal kingdom chapter that mammals, they are almost they do not lay eggs, but there are some special cases such as duck-billed platypus, and then we have echidna also. So these are the example of egg-laying mammals. Then we have mesolecithin. So it is somewhat between microlecithin, where there is very little amount of yolk present, and between macrolecithin, where large amount of yolk is present. So mesolecithin, there is moderate amount of yolk. An example for this is frog egg. So let us just quickly revise all of this. So eggs, on the basis of amount of yolk present in them, eggs can be classified either as alecithin, where totally absent. You cannot see, yolk is usually yellow color. So in human ovum that is released, there is no yellow colored structure. So the yolk is absent. Although we have corpus luteum formed, which is a yellow colored structure, but it is not actually ovum. It is used to secrete hormones. Okay. So alecithin we have in the case of Homo sapiens, that is man, alecithin eggs are seen. Then we have microlecithin, is a very less amount of yolk present. Example is branchiostoma. Mesolecithin, moderate amount of yolk. Example is frog. And macrolecithin, where there is a large amount of yolk present. We have reptiles, we have birds, we have egg-laying mammals. Example of what is platypus. Okay. So again, the same question. We have egg, which is liberated from ovary. In what stage? So firstly, at birth, human ovary already has around 60,000, 60 to 80,000 of follicles present. Okay. So this much amount is already present at birth, and there is no increase, no further increase or synthesis of follicles that takes place. Okay. All that occurs is maturation of this follicle. So maturation of these follicles takes place. So we have the primary follicle. It undergoes one, and it undergoes meiosis one. It undergoes maturation to form primary oocyte. This primary oocyte then undergoes meiosis one to form secondary oocyte. as well as the first polar body. This secondary oocyte, it is actually released from ovary, and when this released, it is known as ovum. So ovum, it is released from the ovary, and also there is a synthesis or there is the left out material which is known as corpus luteum. So corpus luteum, it stays in the ovary, as the name suggests. It contains yellow colored liquid. Yellow colored liquid is present, and this corpus luteum, it synthesizes progesterone. Okay. So progesterone, what is the function of progesterone? It maintains the endometrial lining. So this endometrial lining, it is maintained by progesterone. So in case the pregnancy doesn't occur, or in case there is, so two fates are possible for this corpus luteum. Either fertilization takes place, or we have no fertilization. Firstly, we'll talk about fertilization. If fertilization takes place, corpus luteum is maintained throughout the pregnancy. Corpus luteum, it will continue to secrete progesterone. And we need to know that menstrual bleeding, when does it occur? Menstrual bleeding occurs due to fall in the levels of progesterone. Fall in progesterone level. As the progesterone level, it is mean right here, so there'll be no bleeding. Also, estrogen and progesterone, they'll have a negative effect on the LH and FSH, so there would be no further ovulation. In case there is no fertilization, corpus luteum would be maintained for 14 days. It would be maintained for 14 days somehow. But after this 14 days, it will degenerate. As there is, so what would happen? Due to degeneration, there would be fall in level of progesterone. There is a fall in level of progesterone, so endometrial lining is not maintained. And there is no maintenance of endometrial lining, it will result in shedding of this lining. Due to shedding of endometrial lining, bleeding occurs. And this bleeding, from the first day of this bleeding, next menstrual cycle starts. Okay. So this is what happens to corpus luteum. Back to the point, we have secondary oocyte, which is released with ovum. So the egg is liberated from ovary in the stage secondary oocyte. And this first polar body usually degenerates. So other options they have given primary oocyte. No, primary oocyte, it has to undergo some changes to form ovum. And oogonia is actually present in the ovary since birth. Mature ovum, it is formed after meiosis 2. So it has to undergo meiosis 2. After meiosis 2, mature ovum would be formed. And meiosis 2, it takes place when? It takes place after entry of sperm. So is the whole fertilization and ovulation process summed up. So egg is liberated from the ovary at secondary oocyte stage. When the meiosis 2 is arrested, it is arrested. And when this meiosis occur, so meiosis 2, it is induced by the sperm. Okay. Moving on to the next one, we have to match the following columns and select the correct option. We have placenta, then we have zona pellucida, then we have bulbourethral glands, next we have Leydig cells. So placenta, it is actually a transient endocrine gland. Placenta is actually also the transient endocrine gland, and it secretes hormones to maintain the pregnancy. And example of this hormone is HCG. So HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin, it is secreted by the placenta and it helps to maintain the pregnancy. So the placenta, it acts as a transient endocrine gland. Example of one other transient endocrine gland is corpus luteum. And what is the secretion of corpus luteum? We have estrogen as well as progesterone. Next, we have zona pellucida. Zona pellucida is actually the outermost layer of ovum. So, when the sperms they enter the female genital tract, and when they come in contact with zona pellucida, they actually uh, we have this zona pellucida, and when sperms come in contact with this zona pellucida, there would be a membranous change. Okay. So zona pellucida is the outermost layer of ovum. Bulbourethral glands, these are the part of male reproductive tract, male reproductive system, part of male reproductive system. And what do they help in? They help in lubrication of the penis. So the semen that is released from the male reproductive tract, it consists of sperms plus secretions from glands, one of which is bulbourethral, also known as Cowper's gland. Okay. So it helps in the lubrication of penis. Next, we have Leydig cells. They secrete androgens, mainly testosterone. Okay. So Leydig cells, they are actually present inside the testes along with Sertoli cells. So placenta, as we said, they help placenta actually. It secretes HCG. So placenta, we have option second. Then we have zona pellucida as the layer of ovum, that is third. Then we have bulbourethral gland that helps in lubrication of penis and Leydig cells. So we have 2, 3, 4, and 1, which is our option number C. Option C. Next, we have which of the following hormones is responsible for both the milk ejection reflex and fetal ejection reflex? Question number 31. So we have option A as the relaxant. Relaxant, uh, it is secreted by the placenta during pregnancy. So placenta during pregnancy, and what is the function of relaxin? It actually dilates the canal. It is secreted by the ovaries and also the placenta. And there is no function of estrogen as milk ejection or fetal ejection. Okay, so next we have prolactin. So prolactin, where is this secreted from? Prolactin, it is secreted from the anterior pituitary, secreted by anterior pituitary. And what is the function of prolactin? It helps in the secretion of milk by the breasts. Secretion, not basically secretion, it helps in the production of milk. Okay. So where is prolactin released from? It is secreted from the anterior pituitary. Next, D, we have oxytocin. Oxytocin is actually released by posterior pituitary. And it helps in contraction. Where will it cause this contraction? It can take place either in the breasts. When is this useful? It is useful during the milk ejection reflex. What is actually a milk ejection reflex? It is a reflex which is elicit when the neonate it touches the areola or the nipple of the mother. It sends signal to the posterior pituitary to release oxytocin. So in case there is the neonate, it comes in contact with the areola or nipple. The posterior pituitary gets stimulated. This posterior pituitary then releases oxytocin. Okay. And this oxytocin then causes ejection of milk. Next, we have it causes contraction. It also causes contraction in the uterus. When does it cause contraction in the uterus? It occurs during parturition. During parturition, the fetus it sends signals to the pituitary and it releases oxytocin. And this oxytocin it then causes contraction of the muscles in uterus, contraction of myometrium in uterus, which causes expulsion of the baby. When does this saturation occur? In case of normal baby, it occurs at 9 months. And in case of preterm baby, 9 months or 36, 37 weeks, you can consider 37 or 38. In case of preterm baby, it would be less than 37 weeks. Okay. So this expulsion of baby will takes place with the help of oxytocin. In case there is not enough oxytocin, which is released by the mother, we can give an external oxytocin also. External oxytocin is also given. Okay. So the hormone that is being asked in this particular question is option D, which is oxytocin. Okay. So we have question number 32. We have the amnion is derived from which layers? So we know that we have extraembryonic membrane. What all are extraembryonic membranes? It is amnion. We have chorion. We have allantois. And we have yolk sac. Okay. So out of this, if we talk about amnion, so amnion it is derived from mesoderm. We have three layers, right? We have mesoderm, we have ectoderm, then we have mesoderm, and then we have endoderm. Okay. So amnion, it is actually derived from mesoderm and ectoderm. So on the outer side, this is the outer side, and this is the inner side. What do we have? Outer side we have mesoderm, whereas on the inner side we have ectoderm. Okay. So amnion is derived from mesoderm as well as ectoderm. Other membranes, chorion, it is derived from trophoectoderm, which is we represent as TE, as well as mesoderm. Then we have allantois and yolk sac. They have mesoderm and ectoderm. Okay, they are also derived by with mesoderm and ectoderm. So the correct option for this case, we have ectoderm and mesoderm, which is option A. So we have the hormones which are secreted by placenta. So question number 33, we have placenta. I told you that placenta, it acts as an endocrine gland during pregnancy. And what does it secrete? It secretes HCG, it secretes HPL, it secretes estrogen, and it secretes progesterone. So these are the four hormones that are secreted by the placenta. So placenta is an endocrine gland which is present only during what? It is only present during pregnancy. It releases HCG. It releases HPL. What is the full form of HCG? Human chorionic gonadotropic hormone. HPL, we have human lactinogen, and then we have progesterone and estrogen. So, what is the function of HCG? It stimulates the corpus luteum during pregnancy to release estrogen and progesterone. Okay, and as we know, corpus luteum it actually degenerated if fertilization doesn't take place. So, in case of pregnancy, there is HCG production, which actually keeps the corpus luteum viable. Is a function of corpus luteum. It secretes progesterone, and this progesterone it actually maintains pregnancy. Okay. So we had this question number 33. And which of the following is not an important component of initiation of parturition in humans? Question number 30 of parturition. During parturition, what all occurs that there is a release of the human fetus, the completely developed fetus, which is ready to come out. It stimulates the pituitary of mother. And what all hormones are released is of oxytocin. Oxytocin is actually released by the posterior pituitary of the mother. And this oxytocin, it will cause contraction of the muscles of the uterus. So the uterus, it will contract, and with each subsequent contraction, there would be an increased release of oxytocin. So the oxytocin, it is released in cyclical manner. Also, during maturation, and when does maturation occur? In a normal term baby, in a normal term baby, it occurs at 280 days, which is also equivalent to 9 months. In case of preterm baby, there is a delivery taking place before this particular time period. We told that there is a release of oxytocin by the pituitary of the mother. Also, there is a release of prostaglandins. What does this prostaglandin do? It also causes contraction. Also, during delivery, or we can say parturition, there is an increase in estrogen ratio. Prolactin, which they have given as option C, prolactin is actually useful during the time of breastfeeding. So when breastfeeding it occurs, there is a release of prolactin, and prolactin is not released during parturition. Okay, so this was our option C, which was the correct one. Moving on to the last question, which is question number 35, which is not a function of placenta. So placenta, as we know, placenta is a structure which is formed during pregnancy. So placenta, first of all, it acts as an endocrine gland. And as it is present only during a specific phase of life, it is known as a temporary endocrine gland. So placenta, it acts as a temporary gland, and what all does it secrete? It secretes HCG. What is the function of HCG? It stimulates the corpus luteum so that it can secrete progesterone. HCl is secreted, HPL is secreted, estrogen is secreted, and progesterone is secreted. Okay. Also, it is the only source of connection between the mother and the fetus. So it removes CO2 from the CO2 along with the waste material from the embryo. Also, it facilitates the supply of oxygen and nutrients to the embryo from the mother's side. Option C, they have given as the secretion of oxytocin during parturition. Yes, oxytocin is secreted during parturition, but it is not secreted from the placenta. Oxytocin, it is secreted by the pituitary of mother. Okay. So option C is the incorrect one. Instead of placenta, they should have pituitary of mother, which is the correct option. Okay, so with this, we end our series, 2 lecture series for the previous year questions for the chapter Human Reproduction. Thank you.